I knew that it was going to get dark, but it's okay. So I pulled out a few. My mic. Pulled out a few, couple. I didn't even pull out a couple. I pulled out one, and then we have the bottom of the deck card from the Tao. So we're doing some Tao messages here, and it seems very much so in alignment with the read that I've just uploaded. So we have, interesting enough, 31 as the card I actually pulled, and then 21. Okay, underneath that is number 1 card, creative. So we have ones in all of this, all of the cards. So this is definitely about energy of new beginnings. The 31 card is influence, and the 21 card is biting through. So I feel like, again, maybe a person is, because there's a woman and a man on this card. Don't know if you can really tell, but there's a woman and a man on the card, and influence. So of course it's talking about couples or another person. And then we have biting through, which has a dragon on it. You can probably see it a little bit. And I feel like this biting through card is basically saying, just like the other read, yes, there's a situation that you need to release. You're having to bite through because you're releasing something, and you need to just take it on the chin and not try to fall back into an old pattern with this person. You need to bite through the pain and stay on task with the separation. The biting through cards is about taking decisive action. And again, we've taken decisive action to walk away from the situation. Per the last read, we were supposed to walk away on our own. And for those who couldn't walk away on their own, now we're at this point where the situation is walking away from us, and we're having to bite through regardless. You know what I'm saying? It's inevitable, right? You was gonna have to bite through if you released it. Now you're gonna really have to bite through now that they've released it, right? So again, and we've had readings that predicted this. It's like, if you don't do it, then they're going to do it, because this is not in alignment with your soul mission and your soul purpose. And there's so much abundance on the other side, but it's just so hard for you to let go and understand, with most of the collective being an empath, and just so loving. It's kind of tough, but we're getting there. So we already know that the Tao cards, they be having these long messages, but they be, oh honey, that tough love. All right, so the influence card says the keywords, I'm gonna go ahead and read it, is courtship, mutual attraction, genuine affection, like I said, a natural magnetism. This may have been the energy between you and this person, but again, per the last reading, it was once precious, but now it's time to put that behind you. It was once a precious situation, a clear atmosphere that has become chilly, and I feel like, and that's the reason why we're having to bite through the reality of this beautiful situation. Remember, I don't know if you watched the previous read, but it says too good to be true, and that's basically possibly what the energy was like within that situation. And yeah, and then of course we were lying to ourselves and that made the situation too good to be true. And now that card is taking on a different connotation for me. It's like, when you see that too good to be true card, it's actually saying, what are you lying to yourself about? What red flags are you overlooking? Because there's spirit is not ever going to give you a situation that's just all, just beautiful all the way through. You know what I'm saying? Like, unnaturally. There's always this, we live in a world of duality, so there's going to be ups and downs. You know, but now I'm thinking like, Spirit is not going to give you anything that's just beautiful all the way through. Yes, it can. It can. But in most situations, there's going to be red flags. And sometimes we lie to ourselves and deceive ourselves and overlook those. But anyway, mutual attraction is stimulating. I didn't finish reading the keywords: natural magnetism, stimulation, and connecting. And so that's part of the reason why it was hard for you to let go. So don't beat yourself up too much. It was a beautiful situation that did seem too good to be true. It was a beautiful, blissful situation at a lot of moments within the relationship, but it ran its course, and it probably should have never even. I feel like it could have stayed that way. However, again, red flags being overlooked in certain lines were crossed that maybe shouldn't have never been crossed. But I don't feel like there's any regret. You know, but it's just, a situation where it's just time to move on. You've outgrown it. There's more for you. There's bigger and better. Like, you thought this was really good. There's even bigger and better, more fulfilling situations and opportunities awaiting you. Okay, and I do have 2 Archangel Michael cards here that we'll possibly get to. But it says, it is a magnetic, deeply energizing dynamic between 2 people that can be profoundly enriching, or on the other hand, simply an acting out of compulsiveness. There we go with the compulsiveness part. And the need for self-gratification. I feel like that's where I was saying that, some red flags were overlooked. Certain lines were crossed that, shouldn't have been crossed. You shouldn't have acted out of compulsiveness or the need for self-gratification. And that could have happened on both ends, or maybe just on one end, or whatever. It says the critical difference lies in whether or not there is genuine mutual respect. And in this situation, it was most possibly genuine mutual respect, even though there was some acting out of compulsiveness or self-gratification. It says keeping things in perspective when the emotional climate is heating up is only possible when some balance is maintained through taking periodic breaks that allows both parties to step back from the intensity. Oh my gosh, if this isn't, spot on. This capacity to keep a distance enables trust to develop and create space for the natural rhythms between people to evolve. And, that didn't happen. And you may have felt the guidance to do so, but you just couldn't do it, or, just should have, but now you know better, and we're going to do better next time. Like, put those breaks and be like, okay, we're not going to talk let's just go a week without talking to each other, to create that space so that things don't get too intense. But I feel like with, certain situations that didn't happen and things got too intense and it burnt up everything. It got too intense, and it was just too much for the initial foundation. It was based off of a specific specific parameters, and the intensity took things beyond those parameters. And yeah. It says, in the early stages of a strong mutual connection, it is more than challenging to pull back and cool down, especially when everything inside of you is driven by passion. But in any event, the passage of time will surely turn down the heat, and being able to consider the relationship in the light of less obvious passions enables you to anticipate this natural process. In this way, even at the outset, a passionate relationship is given a far better chance to mature and ripen rather than burn out from intensity or go still and flat. You know, there may have been that exact type of up and down within the relationship because the intensity was just, it says the power of attraction has been exploited in the media ad nauseum, and we are constantly assaulted by the use of sensual sexual imagery to sell everything from candy bars, fashionable attitudes, ideologies. During the course of any given day, we are subjected to hundreds of such images, each carrying messages both subliminal and overt. It is difficult to tell if we're becoming desensitized to the subtleties of natural attraction. There is a danger once our desire for meaningful relationships becomes distorted by a preference for flawless fantasies over human reality. In the presence of genuine affection, everything seems to click without effort, and there's a willingness to work with all kinds of drawbacks that, in less attractive circumstances, might be reason not to go any further. Exactly. And that's the reason why it was so hard for you to pull back and so easy for you to overlook red flags, because the genuine affection and everything just clicking in the beginning, and as things intensified, it went flat, but the clicks never really stopped. Like, it will go still, but then you guys will find that common ground, and the click will happen again. But each time it would intensify, and it was just too much for maybe one of the parties, or maybe just too much for the situation, the circumstance, and the timing. It just wasn't divine timing for things to perhaps elevate in the way that they did, and it burnt out the situation. I'll get to that later. It says experiencing natural magnetism is a living lesson of the universal laws of yin and yang. Spontaneous one-on-one exchanges between complementary and unique individuals is the expression on human terms of that interchanging between the active yang principle and the receptive yin principle. This free-flowing dance of energy creates a natural high where the outlook seems rosier. The impossible is possible, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. That free-flowing dance of energy, okay? And that's kind of how that, perhaps situation was. And it could be, like I said, a career, job, person, place, or thing, friend. Like, there was a nice high in the beginning, but just like per the last read, the bottom of the deck card, spoke about, a clear atmosphere has become chilly, and it no longer supplies the support that is needed. What was once precious, you now need to have to put behind you. That was literally the card that came out in the last reading, one of the first card, or it may be in the first card that I read for that reading, and it really coincides with this message here that the Tao is bringing us. And so again, let's keep going. It says, it is nature with a capital N It's the birds and the bees, and it's intrinsically juicy. Okay, like I said, the connection, natural magnetism, the clicks, that it was just intense. Like everything was just, It says natural magnetism is not defined by appearances. It need not be between a man and a woman, but can be shared between any two people. It often defies the rational and practical. Be it a friendship, partnership, or marriage, both members should be willing to openly share and trust in the sanctity of the bond, lest it simply collapse under the weight of disillusionment. And again, that connection, were able to trust this person, to openly share with this person, and that created a beautiful bond as well. It says a balanced relationship is not dependency, but an interdependence. Okay? It should feel more like an ongoing happening than something static and safe. All right. So, the bottom line message says, should the occasion for pleasure arise, you might be tempted to compromise your integrity. And then that came up in the integrity. One of the cards spoke about integrity. Anyway, you might be tempted to compromise your integrity in fake sentiments that you don't feel, whether it is lust masquerading as love. And that may be what the situation was, especially with putting on those rose-colored glasses, lying to yourself, overlooking red flags and things like that. Or, as I said, one party could have been lust masquerading as love. Both parties, that could have been the situation as well. You gotta stop lying to yourself and be honest. Was it really love or was it lust? But as you separate yourself and allow time to pass and emotions to settle, I feel like you will realize and recognize. And that's when where the biting through card comes through, that we're going to get to. But also in your biting through, it's going to enhance your creativity, because there's more life experience for you to write about, life lessons, just like, this card spoke about. It says the creative is the active, the keywords for the creative card, the number one card, the creative, the active yang principle. So it's yang, strength, tenacity, dynamism, inspiration. Like the situation may bring some inspiration for you it brings inspiration for creativity. Being creative also gives you the strength of tenacity to bite through, not being tempted to go back and fall back into old patterns. If you're even able to do that, like I said before, you were guided to maybe let the situation go a long time ago, but you couldn't because of this natural magnetism and the empath energy within you. You confusing love for lust or whatever. But now you're being forced to release it, because now that person is releasing you, because maybe the things have gotten too intense for them and they can't handle, with everything else they have on their plate, they can't handle it. With the integrity, compromising your integrity here, there could be a third party situation, which is another reason why the intensity just cannot be sustained, because there's other entities and energies involved. Who knows? But the other keywords on here is dynamic, inspiration, heaven, masculinity, authority, and father energy. And the main thing, I feel like that whole message was coming through the grandfather on your mother's side, whether if that person is passed on, their energy is probably the one that made that person, that forced this separation in a way. And if you have your grandfather on your mother's side is still living, this is possibly what they would tell you. You know, you need to walk away from that. You're better, you're bigger and better than what you're settling for in the situation. Either you need to walk away, or, you know, it's going to fall away in some way, shape, form, or fashion, because you're meant for more. You know, you deserve more than what this person or the situation can give you or is willing to give you. You deserve more. Whether it is lust that's masquerading as love, or insecurity driving you to overcompensate, that may have come up too. It is easy to become so involved in your personal movies. So involved in your personal movies. And it's the card before the reading before this one. I still had the cards laid out. They were just laid out for, and the theme for that card says depressed with question mark and an anxiety question mark. It says zoom out and look at your life like it's a movie to help provide, you know, resolution. It was something along those lines. And it's so funny that, you know, this you know, description here speaks about your personal movie and looking at it, but you're too into the movie. You need to zoom out and maybe look at it as a movie that is not, pretend there's different characters in there, and then look at the matter. But anyway, it's easy to become too involved in your personal movies that there is little room left for anything real, right? No room left for reality, which is why you got hazy and couldn't do what you needed to do to remove yourself. It says, remember that gratified pleasure alone is not enough. And we talked about that too. It's like when you're in a situation where this person isn't capable of giving you the emotional support you need, the mental support you need to be able to join you on your spiritual journey and what level you are on spiritually. When you allow yourself to stay in those type of situations, that's a form of abuse. You know what I'm saying? That you're doing to yourself. Like, this person cannot give you the reciprocity. It's just not possible. And it could be the other way around. I don't think it is. If you're watching this, I feel like you are a very spiritual person. And whether you know it or not, or they know it or not, exactly the level that you're on spiritually, it far exceeds where they are. And it's just not enough. You know, it says, remember that gratified pleasure alone is not enough to establish an enduring and meaningful bond. Like I said, you guys may have a lot of intensity between you two. But that's not enough. It says, if this one is important to you, you will need to give it a little more time to ripen. Line 2. When an attraction is particularly strong and compelling, it has an almost hypnotic power. It takes a special quality of alertness not to fall into a deep sleep of wish-fulfilling fantasies. If you're feeling particularly dreamy these days, consider pinching yourself from time to time, if for no other reason than to remind yourself that you're still here. Like, don't get caught up in the fantasy, and the wishes and all of that, overlooking the red flags of knowing that even if you were to be able to be one with this person and actually have a relationship, it will still eventually end. An ending will be inevitable because you're just on different levels spiritually. You're on different levels spiritually and emotionally. You know, this person may be very intelligent. They may be more intelligent than you mentally, maybe not. But on those, you know, emotional and spiritual side of things, there's just a lot more growth, or more growth that is needed in one of the partners, and that it would never be what it needs to be. Line 3. Often, problems that surface later in a relationship are those which appear first as all or nothing quick fixes. Once our emotions color our investments in a specific outcome, we unbalance the ecology of relating and deny nature the opportunity. And in that previous reading that I was telling you about with the depressed anxiety and the zoom out card, the bottom of the deck card was balance established. And if balance is established, that means what has thrown you off has to be removed. In this case, I feel like it could be a person, place, or thing, maybe a person within your career, or maybe the whole career itself, family member, a friend, or maybe a romantic situation. I'm leaning more to a romantic situation, but apply it as necessary. But ecology and deny nature the opportunity to take its course. Plotting and manipulating to make sure you get what you want creates mistrust and ultimately takes you further and further away from unity. Okay. Line 4. Partnerships that succeed are founded in mutual respect and maintaining healthy, honest, and open communication. And that's impossible if there's anything that, has you acting out of integrity, such as a third party. Both individuals are responsive to the changing needs of the other. If lovingly handled, a relationship can be savored like a fine wine that ripens with age. And so if you're able to release it and let it go, and just maybe have a fresh start without the intensity, maybe, but allow it to be what it was supposed to be in the beginning. If lovingly handled, a relationship can be savored like a fine wine that ripens with age, its subtle flavor getting better with time. As with any living thing, there is no way to predict how long a relationship will last. Therefore, it is foolish to take it for granted. When the qualities of honor and joy are present in the relating, however, it grows closer to poetry than prose. Do your part and see what happens. Okay, so it's hard to predict the relationship and how long it would last. Don't take it for granted. Try to handle the situations and the disconnect with love, and you just never know what the relationship can grow into when it's lovingly handled, when the separation can be lovingly handled, or just a shift into a fresh start and clearing the slate and doing things the right way, pulling back when needed, and not forcing a situation by staying longer than you need to, taking that time and the breaks needed to settle out any, emotions that may have arisen or whatever. Just being conscious and alert of self moving forward. Line 5, it says the beginning can sometimes be pretty rocky before the real relationship dance begins. Learning each other's moves takes patience, forgiveness, and a sense of humor. Everyone seems to want intimacy, love, and happiness, but when faced with challenges, awkwardness, and vulnerability, many aren't willing to undertake the moment-to-moment maintenance that every relationship requires. Be realistic with yourself about your own motivations and act accordingly. And so this fresh start and this new beginning is needed because another reason why it was possibly hard, you've been guided to fall back and release. And maybe one of the reasons why it was so hard to do that is because there was no toxicity. It wasn't no real, like, blatant in your face toxicity within the relationship. It was just a inner knowing and like, yeah, this person is giving all they have, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to walk away, or just facing the truth of, I'm giving all that I have, but it's not going to be enough. And that doesn't mean that other person did something wrong or they were a bad person. It's just not the timing is just off. And those are sometimes the hardest situations to let go of, because there's no blatant abuse. Abuse is covert. It's the little hidden things that we overlook, of the red flags that, we just put 20 on 10 in certain situations because of the confusion of love and lust, and just those dynamics are intense in their own right. So it's just a lot of intensity that it needed time to settle and cool, and that time wasn't given, or it was tried to be given, but it just couldn't last or didn't last for whatever reason. In the top line, it says the language of intimacy is shared by lovers, poets, and mystics. Its song is sung in an infinite number of ways. Sometimes in a fine, high falsetto, sometimes in a bluesy moan, and sometimes it's nothing more and nothing less than the sound of silence. And that's the language of intimacy shared. It can come in a fine, high falsetto, sometimes a blues, and sometimes just silence. If a relationship is grounded in sharing, self-respect, and respect for the other, it can endure all kinds of challenges. Okay? So, again, this relationship, was at one point, but if the relationship is grounded in self-respect and respect for the other, it can endure this challenge and metamorph or transform into something that can still be held on to by both parties, but just accept it for what it is and not go outside those boxes. If it can stay in that particular area, it can be something that is sustained but not as integral into your life, and maybe eventually it'll fall off, or maybe it will grow into just a great friendship, but nothing more or nothing less. So let's go into the biting through. So this is part of accepting the new bounds of this relationship, whether it's going to continue with just, removing certain things, or if it will have to come to an end and have to bite through. The key words on biting through is take decisive action, restore order, force applied with sensitivity. So it's gonna be force applied with sensitivity, with love. And that, of course, when you're dealing with someone that you have that type of connection with, that influence, that interaction, or whatever, you're gonna have to forcibly apply this decisive action. You know, you need to forcefully apply the decision made, but with sensitivity. Justice, tenacious devotion to a task. You need to be tenaciously devoted to the task of keeping things platonic. And you're going to have to bite through all of the emotions that you feel from, the previous experience with said person, because it could have been really beautiful and intense in a good way, but it's just too much load for that particular noun to carry. It's just too much. You may have been too much. They may be too much for you. And, you had to pinch yourself, come back to reality, and stop trying to manipulate the situation into being what it's not and possibly can never be. Definitely at this time. So the biting through card says the hexagram of biting through points to a time when it is imperative to take swift and decisive action to redefine. Listen, said you have to redefine that relationship and reform your approach. You need to redefine and reform your approach to this relationship of influence, because this person has a lot of influence over you. There was a lot of love involved in the situation. It says the harmonious unfolding. Okay, so this may be what you are experiencing right now, our harmonious unfolding. Because again, you were guided to unfold the situation. You couldn't do it. So now Spirit is making this person unfold from you, perhaps. Nevertheless, it's in harmony of what's supposed to happen. So harmonious unfolding. It says the harmonious unfolding of your life has become blocked, and the responsibility is yours to correct the imbalance. And so it may fall back on you. Yeah, this person may pull back from you. They may have taken that step, but they may backslide on it. But you're going to have to be the one to forcibly apply. It says, forcibly restore the order, but do it with sensitivity. You may have to be the one to tenaciously be devoted to the task at hand, to allow this unfolding, to honor the redefinition of the relationship and reform how you both approach it. You're going to have to be that driving force to, keep things the way it should be. It is going to be your responsibility to correct the imbalance. And remember, reading prior to this, we have the card balance established. You're going to be responsible for establishing that balance. Once it becomes obvious that something isn't right, getting to the crux of the matter promptly should be your top priority. Okay, whether it is an inner attitude or an outer circumstance that needs your attention, put aside all anxiety and hesitation about doing what needs to be done. Summon all the clarity of vision you can muster to look into the root causes of the problem and resolve to confront it with honesty and emotional detachment. That's going to be very important, especially when it's come to dealing with a relationship of this type of influence. Emotional detachment. Emotional investments can cloud our ability to see clearly. That's the reason why you couldn't, when you were guided to release it, you couldn't fully do it. Like, you took steps, but you will fall back and get weak. And now that this person is doing it, this is your chance to say, okay, no. And to enforce it, to embrace that emotional detachment, and to take the responsibility to remove the cloudiness, So this is like summon all the clarity of vision that you can muster to look into the root causes of the problem. So this is helping you when this matter comes up, because just like you were going back and forth, this person is going to go back and forth on their attempt to harmoniously unfold this influence. They're going to go back and forth. You're going to have to be you're going to have to take the responsibility. How does it say it here? To correct the imbalance. So how to do that? Put aside all anxiety and hesitation about doing what needs to be done. Summon all the clarity of vision that you can muster to look into the root causes of the problem and to resolve resolve to confront it with honesty and emotional detachment. Confront it with honesty and emotional detachment. Okay, you know that it is not capable of reciprocating what you need it to be, and if you go back to it, it will eventually unfold again. You gotta let it go and cut it off, and maintain the redefinition and the reformed version of this relationship or situation, whatever it may be. Emotional investments can cloud our ability to see and can interfere with the awareness that is needed to act in accordance with the Tao. At this time, it is only by facing the truth and being willing to take responsibility for the consequences that you can move forward. Okay? Although both are painful, there is a huge difference between the deft slice of a surgeon's scalpel and the hesitant cut made by a layman with a pocket knife. There's a huge difference. The present times require a surgeon's focus and skill. Okay, it's going to require you to be focused and skilled, just like a surgeon. Totality of commitment. You need to be completely committed to this. Clarity of intention. You need to have that clarity. Right, and an appreciation of the consequences if the job is left incomplete or consequences if the job is left complete are essential. You need to understand that if you don't complete this, you need to know the consequences that's going to come with that, and that's stagnancy. That's a block of your creativity. You haven't go through this cycle again of healing yourself, and so that creates delay from you accomplishing your soul mission. And spirit ain't got time for that. Your ancestors ain't got time for that. And they don't want to be playing with you about that. You know what I'm saying? Unless the biting through is decisive and total, the root cause of distress will not be fully exposed. And if the root cause is not exposed and corrected, the trauma will resurface later on, when it will be far more difficult to deal with. What I just said, okay? If you find yourself in the midst of inner turbulence or anxiety brought on by the need for decisive action, it is important to remember to stick with the facts, okay? Stick with the facts, okay? The influence card already told us that, this shit can get so intense. You know, don't fall into self-gratification or compulsiveness. Don't act out of compulsiveness or the self-gratification because of that powerful chemistry and mutual attraction and a magnetic and energizing dynamic that you see. That's not enough. That's not enough. So you gotta be like the Queen of Swords, mind over heart, and stick to the facts. It says, beware of any tendency to leap to conclusions, compulsiveness, or indulge in fantasies of doom and gloom. Devote your full attention to the task in front of you, step by step, as it presents itself each moment. Maintaining your awareness. It's going to be very imperative that when you're around this person again, to maintain your awareness of the level of influence that this relationship and this person has. Maintain your awareness of that influence, but also stick to the facts and know that you got to correct the trauma, and get to the root cause. Because if you don't, it's going to be far more difficult to deal with later on, because the same issues will arise, and it may be even messier on down the road. Maintaining your awareness will help you to gather your intent and will support the single pointed focus that the current situation demands. It's going to require that surgeon level of focus and commitment, intention, that surgeon's level of clarity of intention. Okay, it's a self-assurance, knowing your worth, and that, or knowing that person's worth, and whether you're able to give them what they're worth. But 9 times out of 10, we're talking about us knowing your worth and knowing that they don't have the ability to give you what you need, whether it be spiritually or emotionally, maybe financially and mentally. When it comes to spirituality and people that are on the spiritual journey, like, finances, we were not too worried about that, because we know with our alignment and our gifts and our abilities that will be handled, that will be taken care of by our ancestors. Mentality, they have to at least be at your level of their mental capacity and intelligence, and you wouldn't even have this type of influence or mutual connection if the intellect wasn't there and you weren't able to have that conversation. There may be even a level of emotional intelligence that is there, but it's just not enough. And that's when and even when it comes to the spirituality, there's a level of spirituality that's there, but it's just not enough. Those are the 2 factors that is usually maybe thrown off when it comes to dealing with other people in relationships, and what level of importance they need to be on in your prioritization in your life. And so, self-assurance and determination are key to implement changes as thoroughly and painlessly as possible. You need to know who you are. And you need to be determined that these people must meet those 2, the emotional capacity and the spiritual capacity. And in the beginning, some people can have a mask on, you don't really know, but there are some signs. Like there's spirit is all, when something is right, spirit is always going to give you a red flag. Spirit is always going to show you a sign. It's just sometimes the intensity and all of that, the self-gratification, the compulsiveness is so strong, your desire is so strong that you overlook it, and hope for the best, because everything is just clicking, it seems, so well, in a way that you may have never experienced before. And so, okay, you dabbled, you fail or whatever. It's okay. This was a new experience. You got, gratification in some ways that you've never experienced before. So you wanted to, but you still knew it wasn't enough. But lessons learned, right? We're not going to go back there. And again, remember, I feel that even though this person has been like, okay, well, no, unfolding, I feel like they may backtrack. And if they do, you need to be strong, because when you try to do it, and put a stop to certain things, they didn't support you in that. They was like, fuck all that. No. And that's all it took, was them not saying no to you or even bringing it up. They just, but you got to be the one. If it happens, they may, stand by their decision and not make any advances that is outside of the parameters of how you guys redefine the situation in order for things to flow smoothly. So yeah, it says radical reforms can mean that relationships must change. Okay. People must move on. Penalties must be imposed. All changes should be made fearlessly, with sensitivity, and without giving any energy to emotions like anger, revenge, or pity. And I feel like that is, like I said, you've been struggling with the decision to cut things off. You weren't able to do it. And now you weren't able to do it because this person wasn't on board with you. You've already been dealing with it. Now that this person has decided, like, okay, well, yeah, we have to redefine this. You're already on board because you've been there. So it's going to be your responsibility to, again, correct the imbalance if it ever happens. And so with that being the case, when this person brought up the unfolding, there was no anger, there was no revenge, there was no pity. You know what I'm saying? And it was done fearlessly. Like, you were already there, they were there. And it could be done with sensitivity. It says simple and unsentimental justice administered fairly. And this is where this influence relationship is heading, into a simple and unsentimental justice administered fairly and directly can be tremendously healing. And I feel like this is where you guys are going. And again, they may need you to enforce it, but I feel like this is possibly what they're feeling too. They are ready to release it, and heal. It says loving farewells, even if they are painful. And this is what you guys may be experiencing. This is just a loving farewell. And yes, you're going to be, it can be painful, and it may be painful as time progresses. It may get harder. Right now, and when it first happened, it's fresh. It's like, okay, yeah, it's meant to happen. But once you start feeling that absence of that person, it's gonna start beginning to feel painful. But it is necessary. It says even if they are painful, it can help a person to go on his or her way with greater understanding. And you guys are gonna be able to do that because that love is there. That mutual attraction, that mutual connection, there is a level of, and then that mutual respect is there. And so with that, there can be a loving farewell, right? And it can help both parties with a greater understanding in the absence of each other. It says your job is to act in a way that is beyond reproach, honorable, accurate, and appropriate. So again, staying true to the redefinition of the situation and truly reforming the relationship. It says this is important. This is as important in bringing balance to your own inner attitudes as well as it is in dealing with the attitudes and actions of others. So you need to make sure you get this deep down into your being, deep down into your knowing. Okay, so let's read the changes with the different levels of the I Ching, starting with the bottom line. It says everyday alertness is its own reward because it makes it possible to see when you've gone off course in good time, to trim your sails and head in the right direction without getting lost altogether. Keep your head up and your nose to the wind and you'll be fine. Okay, so everyday alertness you need to embody, again, so that you can know when you may go off course, when you start feeling like, oh, I missed this person, let me go back. No, you need to stay alert for the reason why of the separation. This is what you're going to have to equip yourself with moving forward, so that you can access the beautiful opportunity and blessings that are right around the corner. But you just got to keep going and not turn back and hit that corner in order to see it. You can't see it right now because you're walking away from the situation, but you got to keep walking. It says justice is not really just line 2. Justice is not really justice if it arises out of partiality or discrimination. Okay. Justice is not really justice if it arises out of partiality or discrimination. Expecting preferential treatment. And so you can't, with this person of influence, just because you guys had a certain level of intimacy, you can't be trying to continue to expect preferential treatment, from said person. It says expecting preferential treatment or imparting it to others, nor can you impart preferential treatment to this person. You need to pull back all of that and stay within the redefinition and the reform of the relationship. It says it's fundamentally immature and irresponsible. It'll be immature and irresponsible for you to do so, because didn't we say it's going to be your responsibility to correct the imbalance? So it says every child thinks he's the center of the universe and claims the right to arrange it according to his own will. It's an attitude that is cute in babies, but not at all appropriate in adults. Real maturity goes together with accountability. Okay, so you got to know that the world don't revolve around you, nor do you need to enable anyone by, giving them preferential treatment and supporting them in thinking that the world revolves around them. No, you need to create that balance, for self and for others. Line 3. Sometimes we can see very clearly what needs to be done, but either we don't have the authority to make it happen or can't get the support we need from others to follow through. We talked about that. But there is an inner dimension to every situation. There is value in making an attempt to do what is needed. Okay. And I feel like, again, you made several attempts to do what was needed, but that also prepared you for when that person made that step. And again, since you've been through it, you can help them, and be that support. Right. When it says, or you can't clearly do what needs to be done because you can't get the support that you need for others to follow through. You can be that support to help to follow through, because you've been there, done that, and you know what it is. It's going to be your responsibility to correct the imbalance. There's an inner dimension to every situation, and there's a value in making an attempt to do what is needed, even against all odds. Against all odds. And I pulled out a few tarot cards in the last reading, and it's like I said, it gave reason to think that this person is going to try to backtrack, just like you backtracked multiple times. Gave reason to show that person is going to backtrack, but you need to do what is needed, again, even against all odds, even no matter how much love bombing this person brings to you and this, that, and the third. You need to stand. You need to tenaciously be devoted to the task at hand. Just like the biting through card says, you're going to have to apply force with sensitivity. Okay. And restore order. The biting through card is saying restore order. That's what we're reading now. Biting through. I'm looking at the keywords though. It says, don't hesitate to go at it alone. Don't hesitate to go it alone. And that was one of the cards that I saw as I was putting the cards away. I noticed, because I have a deck of handmade cards probably about this big, and I just pick, from each pick, a little group here, a little group there, whatever, and make a deck. And in that, then I shuffle and do the read. That's how I, began to do things. And with me doing it that way, I know that all of the cards really have, something that for the message. But, you know, the message would be forever long if I go through each and every one of the cards. But Go At It Alone was one of the cards that was in there. And I specifically remember seeing it. And here we go again. It says, don't hesitate to go it alone. Okay. If your own awareness and clarity are telling you something must be done, don't be afraid to go it alone. Don't be afraid to be the only one out there fighting to honor the redefinition of the relationship and the reform of the relationship. It's on you. Okay, the inner strength you will gain from this is just as important as changing the Adam circumstances. Okay, you're going to gain so much inner strength from this. Okay, line 4, it says sometimes taking responsibility for putting things right, especially in very difficult circumstances, can feel so overwhelming. The Tao is trying to prepare you right now. It's going to feel overwhelming, especially when this type of influence is involved. Can feel so overwhelming that all we want to do is pull the covers up and pray the whole thing will go away. But when we succumb to fear or panic, we can lose sight of what's real and what's imaginary. Turn your attention instead to understanding the nature of any obstacles or antagonism to what you propose to do. Turn your attention to understanding the nature of any obstacle or antagonism to what you propose to do. Remain clear about where you're going and be determined to get there. Remain clear about where you're going. Can this person reciprocate the amount of energy I put forward? Can this person give me the emotional support, spiritual support that I need? You know, if I need to do a ritual or protection or want to do a reading, and is this person comfortable with me pulling out my cards? And do they read cards? You know, can we read together? Can we help, each other grow and or whatever spiritual practice you have? Can they indulge in that on you, with you, and grow with you? You know, if not, you got to remain clear about where you're going. And if they can't do that with you, that's where you're going. And you want to go deeper into that. If they're not comfortable with that, or if you even hesitate on even bringing that up around them, or pulling out, if you're uncomfortable doing your spiritual practices in front of them, then if they hadn't made it clear that, you can be all of you, and that they do those things too, and you guys, then you need to walk away. You need to be determined to find that person in which you can have that type of a connection with. Line 5. It is likely that what is being exposed is a funkier inner attitude that, like a rotten apple, is affecting every other apple in the barrel. Okay? And that's, again, with lying to yourself. Like, I'm going to read that again. It is likely that what is being exposed is a funky inner attitude that you've lied to yourself about in overlooking red flags. Like a rotten apple, it affects every other apple in the barrel. Your ability to act with clarity has been impeded by postponing, okay, what you already know needs to be done. Correcting this inner attitude restores balance and harmony. All right? Correcting this inner attitude will allow the harmonious unfolding to continue to take place, to restore balance to the harmonious unfolding. Okay? To have this loving farewell to what was, and stepping into what is and what needs to be, for both parties to grow and not get stuck in a cycle again. Top line. People don't always wander off the path by mistake. People don't always wander off the path by mistake. Sometimes they do it on purpose, convinced that east is west. Confusion is clarity. Down is up. Locked in by their own reality, they perceive anybody who tries to show them a map and point them in the right direction as an enemy. No need to go there when it's truly impossible to bite through on either an inner or outer level. All you'll gain by persevering is a chipped tooth. Okay? So don't get into a situation don't become disillusioned. People don't always wander off the path by mistake. Sometimes they do it on purpose, convinced that east is west, confusion is clarity, up is down. Don't get too comfortable in the red flags. People don't always wander off the path by mistake. That's you overlooking red flags. If it's not a mistake that things got off path, you just overlooked the red flags and was comfortable in the confusion and was in that space where even though you had the map, you ignored it. Do not fall back into that energy. And again, on the other end, if this person comes to the point where they want to go back into the old way of things and just ignore, you cannot allow yourself to indulge in this person's confusion and the fantasy that they want to live. You got to be the bigger person, right? That spiritually mature and accountable person, and say no. Okay? We have the Archangel Michael card. It says, this is your life purpose. It's time for you to release this situation, this influence, again, so that you can get back in alignment with your life purpose and find that person that can be your match spiritually and emotionally. But until you find that person, really focus on your career, and that's your creative. This goes into the creative part. Use the life lessons and put this life lessons, the pain, the hurt, the experience, the wisdom that gained from it into your creative outlets, which could be your gifts. And we all know that your gifts could also be your career and part of your life purpose. Your gifts gives you signs of what your soul mission and your life purpose is. And this is the prayer that you need to pray to whomever you want to pray to. But if Archangel Michael you're cool with, then this is the Archangel Michael deck. So of course it says, Archangel Michael, you know the details of my divine life purpose, and I ask you to help me align with my goals. This prayer is going to help you to also align with keeping the balance in this influence relationship as well. Keep me aligned with my goals. Please clearly guide my actions so that I'm taking the best steps to fully manifest my wonderful and meaningful career. Okay, and that could be wonderful, meaningful relationships. Please disregard the dog howling in the background. Again, that could be that person howling once, they try to get things back to where it used to be. Or this could be you howling, that inner attitude that you need to correct, howling because they want to go back to fantasy land because it was comfortable, it felt safe, to not stretch and want more. And that's what you deserve. Okay. The next card is prayer will help the situation. So prayer will help you maintain the clarity as well. It says, Dear God and Archangel Michael and anyone else to whom you pray, such as Jesus or Sophia, Mother Mary, Horus, Anubis, Sekhmet, Aset, Beset, Lilith, whomever else you pray to, whatever other energy you feel can add to this. Dear God and Archangel Michael and anyone else you pray to, I ask for your divine intervention, and then describe the situation, whatever it is, whether it be biting through and remaining tenaciously devoted to the task at hand and redefining this relationship. I need your divine intervention in this situation. I welcome your help and I trust and follow your guidance with gratitude and grace. I need a miracle, and it may take a miracle because that's how tight and close and how much of a attraction and chemistry that there was. I need a miracle and ask that you send me one, or send one to me in this situation quickly. Thank you and amen. Because it may get that tough. But then again, if you're cool and copacetic with the separation of things and it's not hard for you, just you focusing in on your life purpose and your soul mission, you may need to apply, you can apply these prayers to that. So, yeah, it's just time for you to boss the fuck up. I've had this card out for a minute. It's the card of Khadijah. And it says, I am spiritually and financially abundant. I provide heaven and earth for myself. It's about bossing the fuck up. Okay? Not being so dependent on these influence. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have anyone, you got this. And a lot of recent readings have been about bossing the fuck up, being your own mama, overcoming breakups. Like literally those cards have come out in previous readings. In a reading that I did just the other day, and I was like, I didn't record it, but it was, so, and that's the reason this came out maybe 4 readings ago, and I'm like, yeah, that's the energy that I need, and it's definitely still a current run thread that is being weaved in all of the readings, because most of the readings have been talking about releasing the old you. Even in that deck of cards that, remember I was just telling you, the last reading I did, all the cards apply. It says your old frequency is an attention whore. The old frequency of being codependent versus interdependent in relationships, and being able to being able to be detached, to let them fall away and not hold on for dear life. You know what I'm saying? That card came up. And what was on that card again? I forgot. I forgot what I said that card said. But anyway, I can rewind it. Once I'll hear it again once I do the playback. And so take whatever I said it was. Take it for what it is, or however it resonates with you. And if it don't apply, just let it fly. Right? But anyway, family, that's what I have. I hope that helped in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I love you all. And until next time, peace.